Welcome to Crime Over Wine Weekly. It is Monday, June 3rd. I'm Michelle Heron. Here are your crime headlines. Chad Daybell has been sentenced to death for the murder of his wife and girlfriend's two youngest children. The jury recommended Daybell be sentenced to death for the murders of Tammy Daybell, Tylee Ryan, and JJ Vallow. Last year, a jury convicted Lori Vallow on conspiracy and murder charges in the deaths of her children and conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Tammy Daybell. She was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without parole. A New Jersey father has been found guilty of aggravated manslaughter in the death of his 6-year-old son. Christopher Greger was found guilty of the lesser offense and endangering the welfare of a child. Surveillance video from the fitness center at Greger's apartment complex shows his son Corey running on a treadmill as his father increases the speed. 2 weeks later, Greger brought his son to the hospital where he started having seizures and died. Greger faces up to 40 years in prison. Sentencing is set for August 2nd. A judge sentenced a woman convicted of helping her boyfriend murder his estranged wife to 20 years in prison. Michelle Troconis was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with evidence, and hindering prosecution in the murder of Jennifer Dulos. A judge sentenced Troconis to 20 years behind bars with eligibility for parole in 14 and a half years. If she is released, she will be under probation for 5 years. Well, hello, friends, and welcome to this latest episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly. This week, you are in for a treat because we have the Crime Over Wine OG joining us, Liam Collins. Hey, Liam, how are you? Welcome.
Hello, Michelle. It's like getting right back onto a bike. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for asking me to step in. And hello, Reno, who made a little, Michelle's dog who made a little, cameo in the headlines this week. So.
Yes, somehow he is quiet all day long and then seems to know exactly
right.
when we hit record.
They always know how to do that. Yeah, that's such a good point. But no, it is really good to be back. It's not a permanent thing. Heather will be back next week, I believe. But yes, obviously you guys have likely noticed that it's been a couple weeks since we had a Crime Over Wine Wednesday episode. I've had a lot of life happen the last couple of months. And so I took a much needed break. Michelle and Heather took over and have been flawlessly taking over Crime Over Wine Weekly, which I've appreciated. And it's just been a long couple of months, but I'm really glad to be back for this week, and hopefully very, 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 very soon get back onto Crime Over Wine on Wednesdays as well.
Yes. Now, it has been a huge week in the crime world, so I'm really glad that you're here, because it's like all of these trials that have been going on for like so long, and we were like waiting for sentencing and things like that. Like,
so true.
Literally all week long, our group chat's been like blowing up with all of us trying to keep each other updated. It's been hard. Yeah. It's been like trying to drink water out of a water hose. It's been hard to keep up. But yeah.
Yeah, no, there's been so much happening, and I'm glad you brought up the group chat, because I think that's the first mention that we've had. But look, because that's constantly flowing with all different screenshots and like news articles and stuff. So glad that finally made it onto the podcast. But yeah, no, it has been a week. You're definitely right about that.
Yes. So let's jump right on in. But first, we have to get to the very best part, which is the wine.
Of course. Oh my gosh, my favorite part. And I'm on it this week, so let's do it, right? So this week we are drinking Bloc and Barrel Chardonnay. It's finished in American oak barrels, resulting in bright citrus aromas, rich pineapple flavors, and notes of toasted coconut. And, Michelle, for some reason I saw this bottle and immediately thought of you. And so that's why we're drinking that this week. So I'm really excited to dive right into this bad boy. So let's do it, right?
Yeah. Let's get it right on open. Take a sip.
Yes. And I want to be clear to everyone. So even though I have not been, on Crime Over Wine, I want to be crystal clear that I have still been drinking just as much wine, so I'm not, that has not gone away. Like I'm not rusty on that by any means. So in fact, I've probably drank more the last couple months. So here we are. So cheers, Michelle. Good to see you.
Cheers to that.
Ooh, toasted coconut. American. Oh, definitely oak barrels for sure. That's a very, very oaky Chardonnay. Citrus aromas. Yeah. I could see that for sure.
I like it. It's like summer.
Yeah, and I do love also pineapple in a wine for some reason. Because it does give a little bit of like a little bit of summer-esque kind of vibes. You're definitely right. And it's we're in the thick of it. Even though technically I don't think it's summer yet, is it? When does summer even start?
I don't know the official date, but I know like
It's kind of
Memorial Day is like what people
Right.
coin as like that's the beginning of summer. So I think we could say we're in summer.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, Memorial Day is definitely the unofficial start, and I'm fine with that as well. And it definitely feels like summer in Tennessee. That's so true. But I really actually can't wait one more second to talk about crime again, because it's been a long time since I've had a microphone in my face talking about murder. Are you ready you want to go into that, or?
Yeah, definitely. So I was looking we have like a little rundown. That's how we kind of keep like on topic, because sometimes we can float off topic.
Most of the time.
But I was like looking at your cases for this week, and you have not missed a beat. Like you are bringing all of the murder with the Crime Over Wine this week.
Oh, 100%. And right after the break, guys, I'm going to tell you a couple of really wild cases, including one mother in New Jersey who is looking for the last surviving child that she has. Y'all are going to need to hear to believe this. Crime Over Wine is sponsored by BetterHelp. As someone who's used therapy for years, I know that finding a therapist can sometimes be a stress on its own, juggling your full-time job, your family, your friends, your podcast, and trying to find the right therapist on top of that can almost feel impossible. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp matches you with a therapist that works for you on your terms. It's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to one of 33,000 licensed professional therapists in as little as a few days. And because finding a new therapist is a lot like finding a new bottle of wine, if you don't jive with your therapist, you can easily switch to a new one at no additional cost. You can get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp by going to betterhelp.com/crimeoverwine. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/crimeoverwine for 10% off your first month. Join over 4 million people who decided to get help and get happy with BetterHelp.
Welcome back to Crime Over Wine Weekly. The search is underway for a Texas woman missing out of the El Paso area. Danielle Plummer was last seen on Friday, May 31st, around noon in Van Horn, Texas. The Texas Department of Public Safety says the 62-year-old is missing and could possibly be endangered. She is described as a black female, about 5'1", around 229 pounds, with brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a black shirt, black pants, and has facial hair. If you've seen her, call the Culberson County Sheriff's Office at 432-283-2060.
A mother in New Jersey is looking for her last surviving child. Danielle Lopez was last seen on April 13th at a Wawa store in Vincenttown, New Jersey. That's about 45 minutes east of Philadelphia. Police say the circumstances surrounding her disappearance are considered to be suspicious. And for Danielle's mother, Sue, it's bringing back the heartbreak from the death of her two other children. Sue's older son died from suicide on Christmas Day in 2015, and her younger son died in a car crash in Florida in 2016 after recently returning from a tour in Afghanistan. New Jersey State Police found Danielle's blue 2008 Hyundai Accent the same day that Danielle disappeared. Sue says police have reason to believe Danielle may have been hurt, but no additional details about that are available. I've not been able to find any explanation for that on any news articles that I read. If you knew anything about Danielle's disappearance, call the New Jersey State Police Missing Persons Unit at 609-882-2000 extension 2554 or email them at missinginformation@njsp.gov. Now, Michelle, I have to tell you about the latest developments in a case of an infamous suspected serial killer that I have been absolutely obsessed with for years. Because almost 30 years later, and police are still identifying the likely victims of Herb Baumeister, better known as the I-70 Strangler. Police in Indiana have just identified who they believe to be his 12th victim. That's 31-year-old Jeffrey Jones. Jeffrey went missing from Indianapolis back in 1993, and just last month, the Hamilton County Coroner's Office confirms remains found on a property belonging to Herb were Jeffrey's. He is the third suspected victim of Herb's identified in the last 6 months. Herb became known as the I-70 Strangler and Herb the Perv for allegedly targeting young gay men at bars and bringing them back to his home before killing them and dumping their bodies along Interstate 70 in Indianapolis. A survivor of Herb's told police that he went to Herb's home to find mannequins staged around a pool at his house as though they were at a pool party. Herb committed suicide in Ontario, Canada, after police took out warrants for his arrest, but before he could be arrested on those charges, today police believe he is responsible for at least 25 murders.
Okay, I feel like the whole pool scene is something that's going to be in a movie at some point if it hasn't already. Like, that is creepy.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm confident there's an episode of Criminal Minds out there about that in some way. If not, like, producers need to jump on that. You should have seen my face, Michelle, the first time that I think I first heard about it on an episode of a podcast, and my face when he was describing the mannequins around this pool, my jaw on the floor, obviously. Let's put this out there, like, that red flag, right? Like, let's be clear about that. Like, if you see a man and you go over to his house and he has mannequins, period, then that's a problem. So that I mean, again, obviously, like, no victim blaming here, but it just feels like that should have been a little bit more of a thing. And, like, he got away, so I guess maybe that was a little bit of a red flag. It definitely is. But yeah, no, that's an interesting one, and that is the main reason why I'm so obsessed with that.
I've heard of the I-70 Strangler, but I've never jumped into it to hear all of this. So now after we get done with this, I'm totally gonna be Googling
Oh, click
more.
hole.
Oh my gosh.
Please live text as you do that, please. And the interesting part about Herb too is that there's Herb the Perv, right? Which is what they were able to figure out was at the time that they took out warrants for his arrest, that was what he was known for, is going after, or allegedly known for going after young gay men in gay bars, that kind of thing, inviting them over and killing them. But then there was this totally different thing playing out involving the I-70 Strangler, or at least they thought it was two different things, and they thought that they were, again, two totally different people. They didn't make the connection until after he had already died, and then all of a sudden they realized that they were probably dealing with the same person, because a lot of the men who the gay men who he invited over to his house were also found, including Jeffrey Jones. They found him they found remains on his property, buried and burned in some cases, a lot of different ways methods of disposal. So he didn't exclusively dump them along this interstate. Which always makes me wonder too. I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but always makes me wonder what changed, right? Because there's always specifically with serial killers, there's always a pattern of behavior, and then usually when there's a change in that pattern, it's something sparks that, either maybe he was almost caught, or maybe it's a significant life event happened. There's always something that makes them makes them change up their pattern of behaviors. And so I'm just wondering what that might have been, if indeed Herb was both of these, serial killers, what that was that made him change that dramatically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you bring up a really good point with that, because did he almost get caught, or did he feel like he was running out of places to dispose of these body parts, something, and maybe he tried to stop for a while and then couldn't, who knows? But you're exactly right. When there is a change of behavior, there's usually a reason why.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I cannot wait for the Netflix documentary to come out on
Oh,
that
yeah.
because that'll be one that I'll binge in a set in one
Oh, yeah,
sitting.
I am surprised there isn't one. You're right about that.
All right, we have got so much more coming up here on this episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly, including a gruesome case out of Minnesota. Hear why authorities say a brother killed his sister and her unborn baby when we come back.
Hello, everybody. This is Liam Collins, the host of the podcast Crime Over Wine, and your Wine Wednesday just got so much better. Every week, we share a new true crime story over a new bottle of wine. So, your new true crime adventure starts right now, every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, Crime Over Wine listeners. I am Rachel.
And I'm Heather.
We are the hosts of Like Mother, Like Murder.
We bring you the good, the badass, and the crime.
Each week, we bring you stories from missing and murdered,
to survivors and women who empower you.
and of course, some mom talk sprinkled in.
Check us out wherever you get your podcasts at Like Mother, Like Murder.
And give us a follow on social media so that we can say hi.
Okay, love you, bye.
Okay, love you, bye.
Police in Cape Town, South Africa are still trying to find a 23-year-old German tourist who went missing in February of 2023. Nick Frischke went missing on February 15th, 2023 while hiking the Hangberg Trail between Hout Bay and Sandy Bay, again in Cape Town, South Africa. Now, while Nick has not been found yet, 4 men are charged related to his disappearance and suspected murder. Igshon Fisher, Van Roy Peterson, Carlo Guenantine, and Melvin Guenantine are all facing a range of charges, including for engaging in criminal gang activity and carrying out aggravated robberies against multiple victims, including, they believe, Nick. Police accuse the men of stealing Nick's phone, backpack, and bank card and are trying to prove that they killed Nick afterwards. Cape Town ETC, a digital news outlet in Cape Town, reported that a tourist told police that they saw a man resembling Nick in Plettenberg Bay, nearly 6 hours east of Cape Town, and that just happened this past December. The man was reportedly calling out, for the German emergency number, which is a number, I guess it's like the German version of 911. Police say they followed up on the tip, but they were not able to connect it to Nick's disappearance. So if you know anything about Nick's disappearance, call Pinelands SAPS at 076-609-0764.
A search is underway for a 92-year-old woman missing out of Washington, D.C. Frances Wood was last seen on G Street Northwest, according to the Metropolitan Police Department. She was last seen wearing a tan baseball cap, light blue denim mid-length jacket, dark blue jeans with brown slippers. She is often seen with a cane in her right hand. She is described as a black woman with brown eyes and gray hair. She is about 5'4" and about 125 pounds. If you have any information, call 202-727-9099. And this is a crazy case out of Minnesota, so buckle up for what you're about to hear. A Minnesota man is accused of murdering his sister and unborn child before dismembering her body. Jack Ball is facing 2 counts of second-degree murder for the deaths of his sister Bethany Ann Israel and her unborn child. At the time of her death, Bethany was either 17 or 18 weeks pregnant. According to court documents, Bethany's mother called police around 11 o'clock on the night of May 23rd, saying her daughter had gone over to have dinner with her brother at a home in Lakeville, but didn't return home. When the mother went to the home, she saw Ball and, quote, he just tore out of the house. That's what she told police. When the mom got closer, she saw blood and feared for her daughter's life. When police got there, they found a large pool of blood on the kitchen floor and cabinets. They also found a bloody saw, a hatchet, and large knives, all covered in blood. While looking through the home, they found, quote, several dismembered body parts believed to belong to Bethany. When police were searching for Ball, a 911 call came in from a resident who said they saw the suspect placing, quote, what appeared to be a body part on their front doorstep. Ball was found nearby, covered in blood, and other body parts were found near the property. Ball was suffering from what investigators believe was a self-inflicted wound to his neck, but he was able to clearly communicate with officers and accurately tell them the time, the date, and the name of the current president. Investigators found journals belonging to Ball and handwritten papers where he allegedly wrote that he was angry with his sister because she was pregnant and, quote, no longer innocent. He is now behind bars on a $2 million bond. He is scheduled to appear in court on June 10th. So, Liam, this is like very gruesome. I can only imagine like the first responders that had to like work this scene, like what they saw. It does make you bring his mental capacity and mental health into question, obviously.
So when you said, because you said that a neighbor saw him placing body parts, or what looked like body parts, I suppose, on their front step. So is it like the neighbor's front step, or is it his front step?
Like a neighbor. I'm not sure exactly like how close, but somewhere in the area. But yeah, like they placed like a body part, and so this person called 911.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. So this is an unwell man, obviously. I mean, not to make any sort of excuse for any of that. But that's really not. I mean, that is one of the most gruesome, like, and intense murders that I've ever read about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, thank goodness the mom like picked up on something's up here. It also It makes me wonder if like that family has known that maybe he has struggled with some mental health issues, and when she didn't hear from the daughter was like something's up. I don't know. I mean, it's a delicate situation when you do have a loved one that is in a situation like that, because you want to support them, but also like you have to also stay safe, and not trying to like victim blame or anything like that. I just know that it's very hard when you're dealing with a family member that might not be well mentally.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that always brings up to me also, like, what would you do if one of your family members committed murder? And like that's something that I've always thought about, right? Of like, okay, like I'd like to believe, right, that I would like, do the right thing and like, turn them in, but like, could I, you know what I mean? But then there's also like the added layer of like, he killed your other child, or like he killed your other family member, or allegedly killed your other family member. And so it's like, that makes me wonder, like, because like you want to catch your child's killer, but like your child's killer is your other child. And so it's just that's challenging. And obviously, I mean, she did the right thing, called it in. But I mean, yeah, I can't imagine being that mom. I mean, the range of emotions. I mean, it's like the silent. It's like you're mourning two children at the same time, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like the fact that she did kind of jump in, and she like her actions definitely moved what was going to happen up quickly, and it sounded like he had what police called the self-inflicted wound to his neck. What if he had passed away? Like, you know what I mean? What if there was more time, and at least now they were able to get him and maybe get him the medical intervention that he needed, and to where this case can be prosecuted if it is going to go that way. So it was just crazy. Like when I came across this, I was like, why have I not heard about this already? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And maybe it just needs time, and maybe this week it will be one of those cases that you hear everywhere. I
have a feeling for sure. I also, because there's the journals that they found of his, and where they wrote, they wrote that she was pregnant and quote, no longer innocent, which, and so maybe like some sort of like religious like undertones to this, like, you know, really like that, you know, complicated his mental well-being possibly, or like something along those lines. And, you know, because there's I've read also a lot about how like serial killers will also use a lot of their religion that, you know, is, and I'm not accusing him of being a serial killer by any means, but like same concept, right? That like, you know, they'll use their you know, religious upbringing and like the like, you know, like trauma, their religious trauma, as, you know, excuses or as reasonings behind like why they did what they did, and like that is like so ingrained in them that like they think that they are carrying out that, you know, that will, and so I wonder if this might be another one of those scenarios, and also too I wonder what, because like this is not something that someone does once, frankly, you know what I mean, like, and so either he had done it before or he potentially would have done it again, hypothetically speaking.
So one thing that I have always been fascinated about is like, so we, working in the news world, you kind of come across some people that do struggle with mental health, and whether that be people contacting you for stories or stories that we're covering, or even just people that call the newsroom. A lot of interesting people call newsrooms at all hours. And but one thing that I've always, like, when they're kind of dealing with mental health issues, like, it's interesting to me that people always go towards like conspiracies and like religion and like being like, you'll see some people, they believe that messages are coming through numbers, like they might see like certain numbers and that those are messages from God or the devil, or that people are that the devil has taken over their body. I mean, very very relevant in this case. Look at the Chad Daybell case and Lori Vallow case, to where their argument was that they had believed that the children had been their spirits had been taken, and it's like, why is that? Like, you'll hear people that think that they're being watched by like the government, and that the people can hear their thoughts, like the government can hear their thoughts, or their phone has been tapped. Like, I've always like really wanted to talk to somebody that has like a deep like background in like mental health. Like, why is that where people's minds go? Like, what I feel like you hear about it a lot, so like, why is it? Because it's like somewhat believable to some sense, I don't know, but I would love that's the stuff I love to sit around and talk about.
Oh yeah. Well, luckily you have a podcast where you can do that, and like and luckily you have a friend who you can always pick up the phone, me, and you know, spew all those you know, random thoughts to. But you know, I think you you know, hit at a really interesting point though Michelle, because that, I feel like there's like, to me, all those things like relate back to like some sort of like higher power, or like someone in like some sort of authority or something like that, like either telling them what to do or telling them what to believe or telling them like something's going on or something like that. And like that always stands out to me, and specifically with these types of cases too. And like what you're talking about, is that seems to be a very, you know, clear underlying, you know, theme with people, is when there's somebody out there telling them that this is clearly happening. Because like, people don't just like make stuff up on their own. They may, you know, like, if it comes down to like, you know, that you like that you genuinely believe something, and like certainly like the voices inside of your head or something, like whatever you made up, like whatever your brain made you believe, but like you justify it as like, somebody told me that this is happening, and that's the reality for them, where, because and again, you don't just like believe something, like you're told something and then all of a sudden and then that becomes part of you, and again, I would love to just like talk to this man for a little while, just to like kind of get a little bit of a peek into his brain, and see what's going on.
When I was in undergrad, I minored in psychology, and I loved abnormal psychology. And one of my classes that I took, we had to like watch these videos where it was like a psychiatrist or someone in that realm that is like interviewing and spending time with people that have different diagnoses, and you kind of like see and you see how they interact and some of the things that they believe and things like that. And that was like really really interesting. I'd almost like be interested in taking that class over again, or like another thing like that, because it is just very interesting. And then like I have some friends that are kind of like in the in fields like that where they deal with different things like that. And there's different like I don't know, like there's common characteristics when they're dealing with people of similar of certain diagnoses, if that makes sense. And that's like and of course like you're going to be looking at like probably what I saw in class was like extreme cases, you know what I mean, to where you can really see these characteristics of like the diagnosis, to where it's like, you know, not everyone, just because you're diagnosed with something doesn't mean that you're an extreme case, is essentially what I'm saying.
Right. So true. Yeah.
And also I think it's like also different with like how someone might be being treated, and also like other traumas that they've experienced. Like essentially in the mental health realm, like no one's the same. There's no two people are the same, is essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That's so true.
Interesting episode.
Yeah, well, we had so much to talk about.
I know.
Look at us go.
Well, and even like I know that we had been following like the Chad Daybell case for a long time, and it was it not interesting to you that he is sentenced to death and Lori just gets to sit in prison for the rest of her life?
And also to me, because frankly, like just looking at the two of them, like if anyone seems like they probably shouldn't be walking the earth ever again, it's Lori Vallow, in my professional opinion. Like frankly, because she's if she gets out again, like she's gonna do some weird things. Like I'll just say it, right? And so like it does blow my mind about that for sure. And yeah, and I could go in circles and circles about that case, because there's so much to talk about. I could literally probably do 2 different episodes of Crime Over Wine, maybe even 3, about these two. But yeah, no, and because they were charged in 2 different. I think she was originally charged in the same state, but then she ended up getting charged for something else, and the charges kind of confused me. But she's in Arizona now, I believe, and so it's like, so maybe that has something to do with it. It's odd, and like, but at the end of the day, it's up to the judge's discretion, I suppose, of like what they think, what punishment I guess they think fits the crime. But man, I have to agree with you there for sure.
I also, like, I get that there are, like, jurisdictional things, like, you can't really help that, but I do wonder if the male and female thing, the gender thing, could be something,
maybe.
You know
what? You know, it's sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Michelle, but it's funny because literally as we were talking, and hopefully they listen to this episode, but my friend Rachel and Heather texted me about you'll never believe, but Dardley Routier, and so but I distinctly remember a big thing about that was whether or not she would be sentenced to death simply because she's a woman, and how like much fewer women commit crimes, certainly murders to begin with, but a far lower number of women get sentenced to death than men, and so I was thinking about that like literally not too long ago, just about the gender discretion, but I bet you're right though. I bet there's something there about her being a mom, like her being a woman, her being attractive, frankly, that that a jury just couldn't go there.
I mean, it's totally up to the jurors on the Chad Daybell case. If they want to come forward and speak to the media, I would totally get it if they didn't. Just because people are insane these days and like to post personal information. Like I will never, ever, ever understand why people think that that's okay to do, because it's not. But I would love to hear from like a juror in both of the cases as to like what went on in that room, like what were the discussions like what just what was the consensus, and I feel like that with like all trials I always would love to hear from the jurors just as to what they were thinking. But
so true. So if any of them are listening, happen to listen to this episode, slide into our DMs. We will have you on the show.
Absolutely. And we'll cover your wine.
Correct. We will buy you a bottle of wine. Correct.
Well, Liam, thank you so much for coming on this week. It's been like you've never left, and not that you left, like just like there hasn't been a pause, you know what I mean?
Right. No, it's been fantastic. It's so good to be back on with you and hopefully with Heather soon. It's like getting right back onto a bike, mostly if the bike was like a little rackety at first, because I was telling Michelle, I literally sat down, it was ready to record, and then I forgot my headphones, I forgot my wine, I forgot my glass, I forgot literally everything, but never again. So
well, thank you, Liam, and thank you to you for listening. And if you can't get enough of Crime Over Wine Weekly, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And we will see you next Monday for the next episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly.
Proud member of the Podnuga Network.